So the war started on the February 22, 2022 at 4 a.m. About 2-3 weeks before, people started gossiping and talking about that. There were some news about the possibility of the war. We were talking about that, and what my mom said exactly, that like, if in case, just hypothetically, this war starts, it will last like 2-3 days, because people have modern weapons, tanks, rockets, etc. So that wouldn't last long. That would be like 2-3 days. That's it. But my mom was so wrong. Actually, just few people believed that, and they left the country before the war started because probably they knew something. The night before, on my way home with my best friend, I was driving the car and I said the phrase, "The war can't start because it's the 21st century, it's the modern world. People wouldn't start the war, that's insane." That second, I even didn't realize that in 12 hours I would wake up because of that call. And a fun fact, 1 week before the war started, I was in Turkey and I came back home. So I woke up at 5 a.m. because my mom called and she said just 2 words, "The war started." And I was like, what? And mom was like, yeah, there are tanks, they're bombing Kyiv, it's the capital of Ukraine. And I just couldn't believe that because, it's moms. They can a bit exaggerate some facts. And I was like, no way. What do you mean? What exactly do you mean the war started? And she started explaining that Russia is in Ukraine. They're attacking Kyiv, there are rockets, there are bombing. And I was like, no, what the hell? I looked through the window and I saw a scene from a movie. There were plenty of people. Many people were running with luggage, with children, and loading their cars with products, with just everything, clothes, products, luggage, children, pets, just everything. I saw the ATM, the queue there was so huge. I hadn't ever seen that in my life. I saw people running from the grocery stores, and at that moment I realized that that wasn't a joke. The war really started. And I didn't think that would be hard to tell about that because, okay, I guess I need a minute. And we started just, packing something, documents, money, just something. We didn't know what to do. We didn't live in the war. My parents live in a bit outside of the city, so I called my mom again and I asked just, what do we do? What do we do? And my mom said, I guess, come here, because they're living outside of the city a bit, just 15 minutes by car. And that would be safer if we are together, it's not so scary. I don't know, not so scary, the war, what? And I said, yeah, okay. And just in 2 minutes after my call, I heard the first explosion in our city. I live in Odessa, it's near the Black Sea. I heard that explosion and I saw a huge trace of smoke towards the way my parents live. Then I called my mom because it was the first, that was a rocket. I called my mom and she was crying. And I had just plenty of thoughts and of course I thought the worst that I could. Because after that terrible sound, I called my mom and she was crying and I was like, no. And she said that she was looking through the window, and the thing is, my parents live very close to the military unit. It's 10 minutes by foot. And she said that she was looking through the window and towards that military unit and a missile just attacked that military unit. Of course, what Russia did that second, they were attacking some strategical units like military, train stations, electrical stations, etc. And she said no way you're coming here because it's so dangerous. They live in pretty dangerous area. And I just was like, so what do we do? What? Then we decided just to pack everything that we need, like documents, money, maybe some precious things, just something. And we decided to go to the store to buy something too, and the store was like almost empty. There was lack of water, toilet paper, grains, dairy, just everything. People were buying everything. Then we decided to withdraw money from ATM because we were understanding that like banks might break down, etc. So we went to ATM, and that ATM that I saw before was empty. There were no money, and we were like, okay. So we checked other ATMs and they were empty, no money in ATMs. We were a bit late. Then we went to fill our car. That was impossible to pay by card, and we had no money in cash, so paid in dollars, just a huge price. And in 1-2 hours the gasoline price was like that was insane. If I remember, I will attach the information here, but we were like, what's the price for the gasoline? We had never seen that before. That was like, okay, but no one cared. And all the gasoline stations in the city were full. Not like there were many cars. No, each car that was in the city went to the gasoline station, of course, because people were filling cars and this, I don't know how it's called, like tanks with gasoline. Then my brother called, and I have an older brother, and he's living in Kiev with his wife. And he said, like, in 2-3 hours, the Russians will be in Odessa, so be prepared. And I was like shocked, because what do you mean? Like, there will be tanks and like Russian military? What do you mean? He said, just be safe, just do everything that you need now, because you can see the Odessa and the Russian border here, and they were already in Mykolaiv. It's very close to Odessa. Why they moved so fast? Because they were prepared. They had weapons, they had military, they had plenty, millions of people. Ukraine wasn't prepared, and those cities weren't prepared. That's why they moved so fast, and they were approaching to our city very, very fast. Of course, we believed that they would be here just very, very soon. I may miss some important things in this video because for now it's a bit, dizzy in my head, and I guess just my brain doesn't want to remember some terrible things. But feel free to ask whatever you're interested in the comments. The first night of the war, I slept in the bathroom because that was considered safer. I tried to block windows with some large things like pictures, curtains, just to protect myself somehow, in case if a rocket attacks my city, it ruins my windows and it crashes all over the apartment. The first days, all we were doing was just checking news and watching what is going on. The government closed the borders for men, and they couldn't leave the country. If a man is from 18 till 60 years old, he can't leave the country because he has to go and serve. The first day, the borders were full. People were waiting in the cars, they were leaving their cars, were leaving everything and just walking to the other countries because that was too hard. People were waiting like 5, 6, 12, 20 hours in their cars to leave the country. So many people were there. And those first men that wanted to leave the country, they left the country because the government closed the borders for them a little bit later when they realized what was going on. So unfortunately, we didn't believe in the war, and we couldn't just leave our parents and family because they weren't ready. They didn't want to leave their country. An older generation doesn't have such mobility like younger people. So of course, plenty of older people didn't want to leave the countries. They stayed. In the end, we decided to go to my parents because they are living in the cottage, so I don't know, being together seemed to be more or less safe. Then my mom started preparing the basement for hiding, because a lot of people said that basement is very dangerous. You can't hide there because if the rocket destroys the building would cover the basement and you would die there. But you don't know what to do, you're not prepared. So we started preparing our basement, prepared some documents, money, just food, and we put all those things in the basement because when you hear something, a sound like a rocket is flying, you go to the basement. Maybe you're watching this because you're bored, or maybe you are interested in getting to know more in the first person. But I hope this story makes you appreciate your own life more. Next days were just very scary because my parents and I are in Odessa. My brother and his wife and my sister-in-law's parents are in Kiev too. We were separated and we were so worried about each other. And from that first day, each Ukrainian started messaging the same sentence to each other. That was, how are you? To get to know whether the person is alive. How is her family? We were sleeping like 2-3 hours per day because there were missiles. There's all the country. A lot of foreigners think that the war is going on near the borders, but that is not true. It's not near the borders. It's all over the whole Ukraine. Rockets and missiles are going to all the cities in Ukraine. That doesn't depend on where you live. I saw some videos on YouTube where foreigners were talking like, it's so safe, people are working, there are cafes and cinema, etc. Of course, people continue living, but have you ever learned history? Do you know how people were living where there were other wars? Of course, people are getting used to such terrible things. When a foreigner comes to Ukraine and spends there like 2, 3, 5 days and then goes back home, that doesn't mean he saw Ukraine. That doesn't mean he can say like, oh my God, Ukraine is so safe. It's like, it's in some cities. It's not true. It's not in some cities. Of course, there are days when Russia doesn't attack my country. But that's just because they also need time to find new soldiers. They need to pay to Russians that they come to my country and just attack people and everything. But that is dangerous every day, and no exceptions about city, people, buildings, time. The informational war started too because Russians started attacking internet, social media. They were posting some fakes and terrible things. In April or May, I don't remember exactly, but the Russian military started attacking electrical and water stations. We didn't have electricity. And that was like terrible because plenty of people are working from home since COVID and they couldn't work. And we were using, I will show you, we were using this thing. We connected that to the Wi-Fi router to just work from home without electricity. And also that was very cold. We were storing up groceries outside of the window or in the balconies because people were living without electricity for a long time. Pretty often the absence of electricity means no water too. So you can only imagine how it is, especially in winter. No electricity, no heating, no water, living somewhere on the 20th floor is very hard. Cafes, restaurants, little small and medium businesses started buying generators to produce electricity. And since that period of time, Ukrainians started almost living in that places because they were eating, buying hot water, working there, charging their phones, etc. So all these places like cafes, they were filled. Since my parents live in the cottage, I moved there because that was more convenient. They have a chimney, a gas stove, so just more things to survive. That way, my family and I were living together around 4 or 5 months. But then I came back to my apartment to live separately and have a little bit of privacy. I live on the 9th floor and it's considered that the higher I live, more dangerous it is. So people started creating shelters all over the city. And now I want to tell you a bit more about rocket attacks and what exactly we did to survive and what we still keep doing. So people downloaded apps or just used chats in Telegram. When a rocket was noticed by Ukrainian military, they announced that, and everything, just everything, cafes, stores, shopping malls, cinemas, just everything closed, and people had to go find shelter and hide there and wait till it was safe again. People were hiding and sometimes even living in subway for 2-3 days because there were days, and still there are days, when Russian keeps attacking cities for very, very long time and you just can't be at home, especially if you're living on the high floor. Moreover, an announcement and an alert sounded all over the whole city, so that was very terrifying, that was very loud, each person could hear that. And that just added that terrible atmosphere. People were running, children crying, hiding, pets were shocked. This sound, that terrified us even more. But that was also a way to survive. Then there were 3 options. The first one, the rocket passes away and moves forward, and this way your city is safe, but the rocket is going somewhere else to another city. The second option, it is shut down and the huge parts of rockets got wherever possible. And the third option, the rocket gets its aim. And the terrible thing that all of that mentioned before is going on not somewhere far away where no one is living. That is happening in cities. Just imagine you're just standing outside on the street and you hear a sound that is coming closer and closer and closer, and it's very, very loud. Then you look up and you see a rocket, and you have no idea where it's going and what you should do, where you should hide, where to find this shelter. And that's just a picture of daily life in Ukraine now. It has been 3 years already, and since that period of time, Russians attacked millions of people, civil buildings, hospitals, cafes, schools, kindergartens, shopping malls, just everything. And I repeat, there are no exceptions. Another terrible part, now people and even children can differentiate the sound of a weapon. For example, they can tell whether it is a rocket or an air defense system or another type of weapon. So we can differentiate, we hear that sound. And by the way, fireworks in my country are forbidden. I guess you understand why, because fireworks sound are very similar to what is going on in Ukraine now every day. Around 5 times I thought, that's it. This rocket or whatever it is coming right here. That's it. Other times you just hope this rocket passes away. In the end of spring 2022, a new period started because since our country wasn't prepared, military started calling Ukrainian people to war, women and men. Some men went to protect our country from the first days, willingly, but not each person would like to go to the war. So other men just got a letter with an alert that they have to protect our country. When you get this letter, you must go and join army. If you don't have this letter, that's okay. If you don't want to go, you can wait, but each man has to do that. So if you don't have this letter now, probably you will get that a bit later. Why I say that was a new period? Because that was a bit dangerous for men walk outside. Walking outside means that a man can meet a military person that would give him this letter, and then he must go and join the army. So from that period of time, there were just few men outside. Some men are trying to hide, some men are trying to run away when they see a military person because they don't want to join the army, and I think that's understandable. Right now I won't tell you about occupation of the Ukrainian cities and what Russians keep doing with my people. These are terrible things, but in case you are interested in that, I would record another video about that. So I continued living in Ukraine till spring 2023, and then I decided to leave Ukraine. My family stayed there because they didn't want to leave country, and as I said before, older generations don't want to leave. The younger generation has more mobility, they know English, they can work remotely, etc., etc., but an older generation can't do the same. They are, very connected to their homes, so my family stayed at home. And for sure this will affect each person. For example, I've become easily scared of loud noises. For example, fireworks is just a nightmare for me. I can't stand that. That was my story, and I don't know, terrible things are going on in the world right now. I've become 100% more empathetic. When I read all this news, what is going on in the world right now, I'm like really scared, and I hope good people find their peace and stay alive, and bad people get what they have to get.